You are now tuned into Flippin the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 135 of Flippin the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron. He's Morgan Burkett, and today we are joined by fellow PSNer, lead Eagles writer on the team now. He's kind of taking my spot a little bit, but it's a good thing. That means I moved on, right? Nick Faria.
Faria. It's all good.
You know, I'm Puerto Rican, so we add an accent to everything. Like Faria to me, it sounds like a Spanish name, so I'll add the little Faria to it. But is it Faria or Faria?
So it's Faria. It's Portuguese though, so I kind of understand the whole have the accent over the eye.
Everything has an accent in my family. I take my mother to the Applebee's. She'll show her the buffalo wings. So it's a force of habit.
I'm surprised you didn't roll the R, to be honest.
No, Puerto Ricans actually we ignore the R. It's a weird thing. We can't roll the R when we speak. I don't know why.
Faria.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
I can't do that. I'm not Puerto Rican.
Technically, in Portuguese, it's Faria.
Okay.
So Faria.
All right.
So we go by.
I like that a lot better. I'm not gonna lie, Faria.
Yeah, it's
That's like you walk into a club, you say, "What's your name, sir?" Faria.
Well,
Nick
my brother's
Faria.
going on Broadway now too, and he's in that kind of mode where because he's Americanized, but he's Hispanic descent. He's like, I need to start going with the full nationality brand of, I'm going to change my pronunciation to Faria because it sounds, more exotic, if you will. So flip a coin on that's going to work.
Good luck.
I completely understand. And you're actually getting a shout from Ben, who's a regular on Flippin the Birds. Yo, it's the infamous Nick. Man's be grinding out the articles on daily. Listen, I need to put this out there because Nick and I, we don't speak like actual vocally often, right? So every morning I wake up and I have to edit articles, right? When I go into the damn I guess let's call it the report, right? Nick has over 100 articles waiting for me to edit, and he'll actually say, "Hey, did you drop this yet? Did this go out yet?" And I'm like, "Well, bro, I can't even catch up myself right now." But shout out to Nick because he's honestly taken the mantle of lead Eagles writer. He's been with us for probably 2 years now.
2-3 years,
yeah. He's taken that. He's gone on the road. The guy is a true machine. So it's gonna be a fun Eagles season. I'm pushing for Morgan to write his very in-depth defensive articles because I have yet to edit a Morgan article.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're coming. I'm in training camp. I'm coaching at a local university, so it's go time, man. We're getting ready for the season.
And shout out to Sean, who's a regular on the show as well. But yeah, I mean, we might as well get into the mix. I'm pretty sure we'll get into the PSN lineup at some point. Liam will drop a dope graphic, letting everybody know who's on the team, who's on the team. But yeah, Eagles. They actually they played the Jets on Friday. Nick, you were actually there in person. Morgan and I were probably just streaming it. But Morgan, I'm happy, man. Nakobe Dean is a freaking Philadelphia Eagle, dude. Kaiser White is a freaking Philadelphia Eagle. Who you actually like Kaiser White's game from our recent conversations. So tell me defensively, what did you see that really entices you to look forward to the season?
Yeah, man, it was really, really interesting. I think the main thing that really stuck out to me is just the linebackers seem so much more disciplined, and that might just be personnel, but I really think that coaching is kind of kicking in. We've kind of talked about it even when we're talking about Jalen Hurts, but just there's some things you can't fix that well during the season. Like you need that off season, you need that time to kind of go through stuff, and so I think with the personnel changes it helps, but man, these are well coached linebackers. I know you brought up Nakobe Dean and obviously in one of the greatest defenses ever at Georgia, but it just stands out how intelligent of a football player this guy is. He's patient. He knows his gaps. He's gap sound. He doesn't make many mistakes. He's flying around. He makes tackles. Obviously, he's still a rookie, but some of the plays he's making, they don't look like rookie plays, right? He's diagnosing well. He's staying patient, and then he's attacking when he sees ball. It's just veteran football he's playing. Now, coverage snaps, we didn't see that many out of him. He didn't really need to do that preseason. You're not really doing anything that extravagant either. So you're kind of letting him sit back about 5 yards deep and diagnose. But yeah, man, he was fantastic. Obviously, Jordan Davis is going to do Jordan Davis things. He's a bully out there. He's going to push people around. And then Kaiser White, same thing, man. Like, you can just tell he's a smart football player. I was pretty impressed. I think one of the knocks on him is that sometimes he can get stuck up on blocks, and obviously it is preseason and it was the Jets. But that's clearly something that he knows he's got to work on, and again, flying the football. So that was really impressive to me. As the preseason goes, I'm sure there'll be bumps in the road, but as far as like a first game, man, getting the jitters out, like, they just played smart football, they played sound football, and you got to be happy with the way they're playing.
I completely agree with that. And Nick, you actually got to see this team in person. Going away from the defense a little bit, because I'm very curious to see in person how you felt the offense looked. I mean, Jalen Hurts, 6 for 6, had the perfect night of his life. He had a Sam Bradford-esque night, which, we know better than to get too hyped. But at the same time, like, this is a player that's, up against the ropes. Like, if, we're talking about, the last round of the boxing match, he's fighting for his career at this point. And it's so sad to say because he's only 23, 24 years old. But in person, what did you see different from Jalen Hurts this preseason?
It's a great question because, we talk about, okay.
He said I have a great question, Morgan. You heard that? He said I have a great question.
Like, we go from first game of preseason from last year's, wild card game. And I was in attendance for that wild card game as well. But there's a lot to like about what Jalen Hurts did on Friday. There's a lot to like. First off, he didn't bail the pocket at a moment's notice. He was very patient. He was very stoic in the pocket. When he needed to step up, he stepped up. You talk about the throw to Goddard, that is just, his feet were set. Everything technically was sound, and he made a strong throw over to the left side of the field, which a lot of detractors are saying he doesn't want to go to his left side. You saw pretty much the whole repertoire of skills that Hurts has on Friday. And I think what's very interesting, I do want to bring this up because this was a point of contention, I think, in the Eagles chat and also on Twitter as well, where a lot of people were upset or they felt that he bailed the pocket too quickly or too inconsistently. He didn't really stand in there right away. And on count right now, we have him going outside the pocket twice, rolled out to his right twice. One of them, the left guard, Sua Opeta, got beat badly on that particular rep. Hurts rolled out, threw a beautiful 28-yard pass to Quez Watkins. That's the first one. The second one, he rolled out to his right. The pocket was pretty clean, and a lot of people were getting on him for that particular piece. The coaching staff yesterday and today has come out and said, no, that's what we want him to do, because if nobody's open, use your legs. We're not just going to wait and dink and dunk up the field if nobody's open. Use your legs, make a play. It's something that happened with Donovan McNabb. It's something that happened with Michael Vick. It's something that even happened with Carson Wentz as well before his ACL injury, where if nothing was open, the quarterback's got to go make a play. And Philadelphia has this weird love-hate relationship with quarterbacks that I'll get into later. But at the same time, if there isn't a play to be had in the passing game, use your legs. Hurts is very healthy at this point early on in the season. It's perfectly okay for him to move outside the pocket if nobody's open. So I felt that it was an incredibly encouraging sign on offense. I was with my fiance and her cousins as well before the game, and I said, listen, I want to see an offense, the starting offense get points, the defense get a sack or force turnovers. And within the first 5 minutes, we got both. And I was like, all right, I don't need to see anything else. Everyone can sit. I can go home now.
Mm-hmm. And it's incredible to see the growth in Jalen Hurts already. I mean, we've spoken about so many times about how he's a great leader. The kid has a great mentality. He's mature as hell for his age. And you've seen this offseason where he's protecting his guys. AJ Brown getting interviewed by NFL Network, and they're asking about, hey, how you feel about Tennessee? And Jalen's grabbing the microphone. We didn't see much of AJ Brown, but Jalen did mention, hey, he's gonna get his own. I already told AJ I wasn't going his way, but I'm looking forward to the season for one particular reason is year two of every quarterback, right? So far in the season, except for Baker Mayfield, because the guy hit a weird wall. You've seen an uptick in their play. Carson Wentz, 2017 Super Bowl team. Joe Burrow, second season, Super Bowl team. Now, I'm not saying this team is a Super Bowl team, but I'm saying that Jalen Hurts has to be in a comfort zone where it's kind of like history is on his side. Ironically, history needs to be on his side because at the end of the season, you got to, fight for your extension. It's a common thing nowadays.
Well,
Before
the
you're
other
a
thing
free agent,
is,
you got to fight for that extension.
yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind, though, is the modern age of quarterbacks is a very impatient age. Teams do not allow you 3 years to develop. Sam Darnold got 2.5. Daniel Jones is getting 3, but is on the cusp of potentially being benched already. Baker Mayfield got 3, and then he was kicked out to the curb, even though he led Cleveland to a playoff win. The Browns won a playoff game, and Cleveland kicked him to a curb a year later. Think how crazy that is. But with Jalen, and this is kind of where I always try to sit there and pump the brakes because Josh Allen took 3 years as well. Mm-hmm. This isn't a quarterback that's going into year 3 and he started every single game of his career. This is a guy entering his second full season as a starting quarterback, third year in the NFL. That's a big discrepancy between some of these other guys who played a full season of football and then went into their second year.
Yeah, I think with Jalen, one of the things, and you bring up a lot of comparable examples. One of the questions is going to be, and we talked about this with Chris Franklin as well, is just like how he wins the locker room. And one of the easiest ways to lose a locker room is to try and put everything on your shoulders and make mistakes, right? So I think that just the way he's showing, again, it's a preseason game. He was only in for a little bit, but. He did look a lot more composed in the pocket, and I think the most important part really is kind of what Nick's talking about is, there's a fine balance between taking what's available and hitting your checkdowns and becoming that kind of checkdown king, right? You don't want them to stop looking. You don't want any quarterback to stop looking downfield and just start looking for your checkdowns. But when you do look downfield and your pocket's sound, and teams are gonna play. More of a contained rush against, they don't really want Jalen Hurts getting out of the pocket. That's where he's dangerous, right? So they're going to try and keep him in the pocket. And when that's happening, you need to hit your checkdowns. And that's something we didn't see a whole lot of last year. And when we did, Miles Sanders had his problems with the drops. And then, Dallas Goedert here and there would have his issues and stuff like that. And so it's really important that Jalen Hurts continues to trust those outlets and use them, right? Like you see him hit his running backs in stride a couple times. It was Jason Huntley at some points, so it's not going to be like the same impact, but if you get Miles Sanders, you get Kenny Gainwell in space and you hit them on the fly when they're open and not just as, oh shit, I'm in trouble in the pocket. It makes a world of difference. That's the difference between, a 2 or 3 yard gain versus a first down. And that's a huge development. And then like Nick said, just, rolling up to the side and hitting stuff on the left-hand side. And then also, throwing some passes over the middle. Again, from what you can gather, it was a really good day from Jalen Hurts. And the thing you like the most is that, when he takes that hit out of bounds, which, obviously is BS and, it is what it is. It's football and people are trying to make plays and, people are trying to go fast. They haven't played football in a while. But you just see that the team rally behind him, right? Like Nick Sirianni is on it. Like I just like, nothing against Doug Peterson, but like the energy that Nick Sirianni brings, like it just, you see the team is rallying behind Jalen Hurts, and that's going to be the difference when they decide whether or not, like if it's a mediocre season and he's right on that cusp, the difference is going to be what he does in the locker room.
So the Eagles sticking with Jalen Hurts is key for me for a reason. I wrote an article about this, about how timing is everything for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. If the Eagles are able to stick with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are able to trust the development, like kind of like how Nick said, you're looking at a team that's built for sustainable success. You have the quarterback that you need. You have the wide receivers you need. And one wide receiver that nobody's talking about, Flippin the Birds alumni, Zack Pascal.
Absolutely.
The guy, when he's healthy, he's on. And the great thing about him, he's so accustomed to the scheme already. He's so accustomed to the head coach already that he's the perfect outlet for Nick Sirianni in that wide receiver room. We have yet to see what the impact of Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Zack Pascal is altogether, but this is something to look forward to as an Eagles fan. Like you're actually looking forward to not only this team contending this year, but probably for the next decade or so if Jalen Hurts is the guy. I personally, down below, Morgan, you can attest to this, I've compared him to Randall Cunningham. I've been mad at him when he messes up. I've been happy about him when he's great. But at the same time, like we do have to be patient. As much as I was tooting for Russell Wilson, I still stand on that throne perfectly fine. We do have to be patient with him because the intelligence is there, the swagger is there, the mentality that you want in your quarterback room is there. Not too many teams can actually say that their quarterback is a mature guy. Not too many teams can actually say their quarterback is the leader. You have Joe Burrow, you have Justin Herbert, you have Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers is a little bit iffy on that leadership part because we've seen all the leaks coming out of Green Bay at times where he doesn't get along with a lot of people. But Jalen Hurts is locker room friendly. Jalen Hurts is defensively locker room friendly. I mean, Sean Bradley came on saying, hey, when he's on the field, we watch him play because we want to see what he's going to do next. Mm-hmm. And that gives you that feeling like, okay, the Eagles are in a great place right now compared to a year ago. I mean, a year ago, they just got rid of Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to remember something. Yeah, you got to remember something here, and I think it's very important. With Philadelphia fans, and I really, really think this is true since McNabb. When the Eagles were having Rodney Peete and Doug Peterson as the starting quarterbacks, Eagle fans were begging for a franchise guy, a guy they could rally to. And then they had Donovan McNabb, and the fans weren't very happy because he wasn't exactly the right kind of leader for the city. Mm-hmm. So then Philadelphia kicked McNabb to the curb, and they had Michael Vick. But then Philadelphia wanted a pocket passer. And I wrote an article about this a few months ago, mm-hmm. where these inconsistencies, Philadelphia doesn't know what they want in their players. They just want to win. When Michael Vick was here, Philadelphia wanted a pocket passer. Right. When Nick Foles was here, Philadelphia wanted a guy that could make plays with his legs. Well, then Carson Wentz came in. He got hurt and said, well, he's not making enough plays with his legs because he's trying too hard. Get a guy who can scramble more. Now you've got Jalen Hurts, and everyone's saying, we want a pocket passer. Stop. Breathe. Every quarterback is different. Every Super Bowl quarterback is different. We keep forgetting Nick Foles won a Super Bowl with a top-tier talented roster. Yeah. It wasn't just Nick Foles that went out there and outdueled Tom Brady. It was the receivers out-jumping and making incredible catches throughout the game against the New England corners. It was Zach Ertz getting open against the linebackers. It was the defense making one play.
Corey Clement, man. Corey Clement.
Who was just cut by the Ravens, by the way.
Cut by the Ravens. Corey Clement.
Think about that with Corey Clement with all that.
To piggyback off where you're going with, Jalen Hurts is different. And here's why I'm going to say he's so different. Jalen Hurts doesn't give a damn what anybody thinks or says. The guy is a bully in his own way. And I mean that with the most respect, because you can comment as much as you want how Jalen Hurts has a terrible arm, no arm strength. Jalen Hurts is standing third, but he doesn't give a shit. He really doesn't. He doesn't pay attention to anything except for what's happening on the field. And I'm sorry, Philly, that's exactly what needs to be on the field for the Philadelphia Eagles. You don't need Carson Wentz. The reason you don't need Carson Wentz is because he wasn't so strong mentally. But you need a mentally tough quarterback, and that's who Jalen Hurts is.
This is why when you mentioned Randall Cunningham, I was kind of puzzled because he's not Cunningham.
Cunningham was like the weapon, the excitement behind it, like the maneuverability with
upgraded.
Absolutely, yes.
He's McNabb. He is absolutely everything about what I've seen. He's McNabb, but a better leader. McNabb before T.O. came to Philadelphia, where people forget before McNabb broke his ankle, he was an MVP candidate, was second in MVP in 2000, led the Eagles to 2 conference championship games. Whether they won or lost is irrelevant. Philadelphia hadn't been in a level of consistency since their entire inception until McNabb got to the team. So to me, if I'm going to compare Jalen Hurts, it's Donovan McNabb 100%, because this is a guy, people complain, hey, he's not accurate enough. He doesn't have a strong enough arm. It's the same stuff McNabb had to deal with his entire career. But
McNabb had a cannon. That I will never take that away. That guy had a cannon for a freaking arm.
Wasn't accurate though.
No, it wasn't accurate at all.
That's the thing. People complain when Hurts overthrows guys. McNabb would throw into the dirt. It's okay.
Yeah. And my thing is, I feel like Hurts doesn't need a cannon for an arm. Like the guy he just needs to get his timing down. That's all it is. It's all about timing. It's all about anticipation. Putting the ball in the breadbasket of the receiver at the right moment. That's all it is. If he corrects that, which I'm sure he will, especially with AJ Brown, is going to get corrected. And when he does that, the Eagles are going to be a problem, because if you remember the first couple games last season, they were a pass-heavy team. I don't care what anybody says. They were a very, very pass-heavy team. Nick Sirianni wanted to show off his offensive playmaking ability, and they were throwing it. They were slinging it against Atlanta and a couple of the other teams after Atlanta. Like, this is what you're going to see this season. And I feel like it's going to be huge. It's going to be big.
Well, and in this kind of piggyback, because you mentioned Zack Pascal, and I do want to bring him up. Fantastic preseason game. Man, like, just kind of the ceiling that he showed and the floor really is he's going to be a contributor no matter what. Like, it might not be a lot, but I think during the broadcast, even one of the commentators was commenting, like, he's going to get a game-winning touchdown at some point during the season. Like, that's just going to be like, there's going to be a point in the season where he just makes.
So you're saying that he's going to already replace Greg Ward? Is that what we're happening on the podcast right now?
We'll see, but
is this breaking news?
Can I
tweet this out?
Okay, I'll take it back. All right. But what I like is you've seen teams that try and surround their quarterbacks with the most talent possible, and it's not necessarily the right talent. Talk about the Browns. Baker Mayfield's not even there anymore, but they gave him OBJ, they gave him Jarvis Landry, and he still couldn't make it work because they may not have been the right receivers. Baker Mayfield, who knows what's going on in the locker room, but just talent alone does not necessarily solve your problems. And what I like about the Zack Pascal pickup is he's going to be able to mentor these young receivers. And you talk about Quez Watkins, and you talk about how many times. I agree, Ben. It just kind of
he's on his way out.
Brian,
Listen, I have the red carpet rolled out right here in my living room. Greg Ward is going to walk across it onto the balcony and into another team.
At this point, it's bullying. It's kind of attacking. It's verbal,
bullying.
It's verbal abuse. Like, it just verbal
abuse.
It's
listen. I have
insane.
I listen. I expect the most out of my team, and Greg Ward is like below the most out of my team. Right?
Three catches for 3 touchdowns. What more do you want from the man?
I got Zack Pascal. I got AJ Brown.
If Rager and Ward are fighting,
I have Jalen Rager. Okay, I'm gonna say that.
I have Jalen Rager. Pay for the bus to pick up Jalen Rager from NovaCare.
Preach.
Listen, he's had a great camp from what the reports are coming out.
He had a great camp last year.
No, he had last year he had a lot of arguments with Sirianni. They were going back and forth a lot. If you look at the reports, a lot of issues last year. Rager, I'm telling you, Morgan, you can attest to this. He's going to be the perfect gadget player for this offense. Not a lot of reps, but people are going to be impressed because of the reps that he does. What he does with the reps he does get.
This is why I like the Zack Pascal pickup so much. Is because you have a guy like AJ Brown who's kind of going to do everything, but he's still young, and so is Zack Pascal. But now you have 2 voices in the locker room. And you talk about a guy like Quez Watkins, who we saw a couple of times last year that it just seemed to be like a bit off, and sometimes. It's easy to blame it on the quarterback and say, okay, well, he's just got to hit him better and stuff like that. But sometimes that's just a little bit of route running. Maybe he's not stemming his corners properly, and maybe he's not timing it properly, and all these things. And like Zack Pascal knows those intricacies, right? He's going to be great for a guy like Quez Watkins. He's a fantastic route runner. He's a really smart player. He understands defenses, and then so you can kind of task him with being that guy he's interchangeable with Quez Watkins. He can be your third receiver, right? And then you have a guy like Jalen Rager who can focus on what he does best. He doesn't have to be that guy, so you can bring him in for situations. And again, we're talking about a guy like Greg Ward, but if you do get rid of a guy like that, as little as you think he did on the field, which I disagree with, he's a great route runner. He makes other people open, right? But one thing he does know how to do is run routes, and he's a great locker room presence. And so regardless of how much you feel like he does or doesn't do on the field, you need to replace that locker room presence with someone. And
okay, so really quick. I'm gonna jump right down your door. This is gonna happen right now, right? Let's look at the wide receiver group. Historically, and make it correct if I'm wrong, the Eagles keep 5 wide receivers?
Unless one of them's a returner, they might keep 6.
Okay.
Yeah, 5, 6.
So AJ, Devontae,
Yep.
Zach, Quez.
Yeah. It's probably Rager.
It has to be Rager because of the money. It has to be Rager because of the money. And I get it. Like, you know what? As much as I knock Greg Ward, I'll be honest. My most memorable moment was we had to rush my daughter to the hospital. She wasn't feeling good, and it was a Washington game with Carson Wentz as a QB. And he caught that game-winning pass. And in the emergency room, you saw everybody excited, and it was phenomenal. Like, those things matter, right? And I get it. He's efficient when he needs to be. He was efficient last year, but the issue is he doesn't get enough reps to be. To me, he doesn't get enough reps to warrant a roster spot for me. At least.
Upside. He's not going to be the fastest guy on your team ever. He's not like you talk about these guys that are classic slot guys like Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman, and I think by painting them into that box, you underestimate how athletic these guys actually were. Greg Ward's not those kind of players, but he does whatever you ask of him. And again, like I just feel like those kind of touchdowns, those game-winning touchdowns where he's coming off the bench, those kind of things don't come without chemistry. They don't come without practice. They don't come without patience. They don't come without all these things.
So the fifth spot is a battle between him and Rager at this point, pretty much.
Be careful with that, though. Be careful with that, because there's one name that we haven't talked about yet that absolutely could, and that's Britton Covey. If they are going to keep a fifth or sixth guy, Covey has looked great in the return game.
I feel like you drop Hundley if you're going to keep Covey and you go 6 wide receivers.
Well, he dropped a pass too.
Well,
no,
he didn't drop it. He didn't drop
the finger. He did the finger. But
the best way I could describe it was Reed Sinnett looked at a guy that was 1 yard in front of him and said, "I'm going to throw this as hard as I can."
Yeah.
I think they drop Hundley. You go, 3 running backs. It's gonna be Gainwell, Scott, and Sanders.
Yeah,
and you go 6 wideouts. I mean, why not? You need a returner, right?
The difference is Britton Covey's a guy you can probably keep on the practice squad. Unless he like has a couple returns here where he's incredible. And a bunch of people miss
potential in him. And he becomes the new Julian Edelman.
Yeah, and someone really needs a returner. And I think if this is his preseason, you're more comfortable with what you see in house and fine with the fact that a team might pick him up. With Jalen Reagor, I mean, you just turn on the TCU tape. Every team wants that, and every team's going to be convinced that they can bring that out of him, regardless of what he showed in Philly. And so I think that's Greg Ward. Again, I think he's too far in his career to really want to just accept a practice squad spot. I think that he can probably go play.
Let's be honest, he deserves better, but it's not. The better's not going to happen here. That's the issue. That's what I'm trying to say. The better for Ward is not in Philadelphia.
He could go to Atlanta and play, right?
With Reagor, you mentioned the TCU tape. The TCU tape was 1, 2, 3 years ago. And what tape are we talking about? We're talking about the senior year one where
not the senior year, right? Yeah.
So that means it's 4 years ago.
Right.
So we're talking 4 years since he's been a legitimate guy that could win out matchups.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the Eagles know that, right? The Eagles are behind the scenes and the Eagles know that. But I think that there's going to be a team in the league that is willing to bet on their ability.
They've used him incorrectly. Let's be honest first. Think about it first before you guys react. Doug Peterson era. They use Reagor as the number one guy. This guy's gonna be a speedster. He's not a speedster. We know that. He like I told Morgan, Taylor Gabriel at best, gadget player. Now, if
he reminds me of
receiver 5,
Nicole Hardman kind of too, where it's just he should be really good, but he's just kind of not.
He's not fast enough. He's not faster than Hardman. We have to remember something.
But he's fast with the ball in his hands. That's the thing.
He's not. He's not. Because how many times did we have end arounds or screens that were blown up because he started dancing? And
that was Miles Sanders' fault. Okay, he missed a block.
Let's be honest about this. At one point,
Boston Scott, not Miles. No Sanders slender.
At one point last season, Jalen Reagor had a negative net yardage for a good month and a half.
It was 5 weeks.
It wasn't like they weren't getting him the ball or getting him out in space. They were giving him end arounds. They were giving him
the ball too much. That's the issue. There's a perfect middle ground. Okay,
you give him 3 carries a game and he loses 10 yards. What do you want from at some point you sit there and say, you know what? You're not a football player. And I would argue. You can talk about the speed being commodity. If, God forbid, they're not going to cut him, but if they were to cut him, we forget that Nelson Aguilar had nobody going out for him for his free agent year. He signed a 1-year vet minimum deal with the Oakland Raiders.
That's not happening with Reagor, though.
It absolutely could. Are you kidding? Yeah. What body of work has Jalen Reagor shown that is better than Nelson Aguilar's 2017 tape?
Are you telling me that Andy Reid won't see Jalen Reagor and be like, hey, I can actually –
Jalen Reagor, they won't touch him. They won't touch him.
I feel like we should put money on this nigga. Or, you know what? Better yet, loser has to shave their head. It's a fair game. I think Morgan, you're laughing because it's a fair game, right? You don't know what's up here right now. You can't see what's up here right now. You know what? Put Brittany on the call. Let's negotiate this with Brittany and we'll go forward.
Yeah, Brittany's not going to agree with it. That's the problem. She's in the other room. I can already feel the tension.
It's so funny because I hear that so often, right? And then when I had hair, I was losing my hairline a little bit. A lot of things were going on in my life, and my wife was so willing to shave my head. She actually shaved my head for the first time. The first time I shaved my head completely.
I've got a wedding in June, though. That's the problem. The wedding in June.
It'll grow back by then. Listen, Ben, I need you not to push it. Okay, the beard is my strength. Cut the nonsense. It's way too early for that. But going back a little bit, I personally, if you're gonna move Rager, you move him via trade, and which ironically, Drew's attesting to. They were in discussions with Morgan. I always forget this guy's name. Chuck from the Ravens. Chuck Clark. They were in discussions to acquire Chuck Clark, but they just moved JJ off for a safety / cornerback. So I don't think that's gonna happen for Rager. I think you move him for a solid 5th or 4th round pick. If you can get 4th round, it's Howie. Howie could get a 4th round at him. There's no way you can tell me not to. I mean, Chicago's right there. Steelers love their wide receivers. Steelers love them, doing their things with our receivers. Why not?
Not after what happens with Pickens and Austin.
Pickens is looking great, man.
They're not going to touch that. I would say Chicago's one. Houston might be another that could potentially inquire about him.
I feel like Houston's like the cemetery of the NFL. Like nobody goes there, and if you go there, you go to the dive for Brandon Cook.
Yeah, it's become the Arizona Cardinals of the late '90s and early 2000s, where when you were playing for the Cardinals, that was the year those are the years that you were like, okay, I'm here for the money, everything's fine.
That's still a thing for the Cardinals. I don't.
That might be exactly what Rager needs. You know what I mean? Like
possibly.
He's getting like I think there is some validity to what you're saying, Brian. Where if you personally, like, again, I know he's got some mental stuff he's got to work out as a professional athlete. Sometimes you just got to swallow your pride. You know,
I feel for the kid. Like he just lost his best friend, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't really say this. I'm not nowhere near a professional athlete or anything like that, or been in a situation like him. But at some point, when you come in as the number 1 pick and you expect to play as the number 1 wide receiver, and then you just get relegated to essentially running reverses, your pride's gonna take a hit. And going somewhere like Houston, where you can play as a wide receiver, they need a wide receiver, and they'll bet on your upside, and you get a ton of targets. That might be exactly what he needs. And again, like we've talked about it on this pod before, Brian, it's like we're not betting against the dude, but I feel like he needs a fresh start.
I don't know. Nick might have some money on this. Yeah. He's very convinced about this. And he's very strong-willed about this.
Because the thing is, look, he's a nice guy. But football isn't about.
That's what my high school.
It's about nice guys and everything else. It's about production. What has he done in 3? I get the mental issue, the mental health issues. I get all that. I understand he's going through a very hard time, and I feel for the guy. But the Eagles have to make the smart football decision,
and that's keeping Jalen Rager. Is it not?
For what purpose?
It's funny.
We'll put it in here. It's $7.8 million dead cap. I think that's what Drew just said.
Right, but I'm not talking about cutting them. I'm talking about shipping them out to Siberia for a washing machine. A box of cookies. I don't care.
It's
just
funny.
Get something out of them that will take the money.
It's funny. Nick says nice guy. I was doing some scouting work for someone, and if they're not good, NG. You put NG.
No, you don't.
So
no, you don't.
It stands for nice guy.
A sad face, like why you have to put NG?
Not good, N guy or nice guy. That's all it means. Not good, nice guy, same thing. That's all you're saying, man. NG.
Oh my god.
Yeah, wait. Man. And listen,
he's lost 2 friends apparently. Is that what Drew? Is that what you're saying? And correct me if I'm wrong. He's lost 2 of his friends and his grandmother.
Yeah.
All this in a matter of how many years? Like, and I get it. You're paid to perform, but at the same time, like, this is still life. This is still real life, and shit like that really does affect you no matter what. Even as much as you try to deflect it on the field, it's not going to happen. It's very difficult. And that, to me personally, that's why Zack Pascal, that's why AJ Brown matter this year, because they're in the locker room and they can protect Rager, which allows Rager to not even be the number 1, number 2, number 3, not even the number 4 option. You're allowed to just come in, do what you got to do, make a play here and there, grab the ball, do what you got to do, and call it a day. At the end of the day, he's allowed to focus now.
Here's the big question I'll give you, Brian. The Eagles are in a tie ball game, 10-10. AJ Brown has 5 catches. Goddard has 8 catches. Devontae has 4 as well. And, tie game, they've got a 1st and 10 at their 40. Are you okay throwing him out on the field and directing a play his way?
So, Nick, you're a bit younger than me, right? How old are you?
Sorry?
You're a bit younger than me, right? How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. Morgan, you're also young. So I don't know if you guys can remember this, Back in the day, and this is gonna answer your question, Nick. I need you to follow me on this little boat ride. Back in the day, there was a show on Disney, and I think it was called The Jersey or something like that, right? Where this kid would put on an old raggedy jersey and turn into this this football player, this basketball player, this tennis player, the greatest of all time, right? If that were to happen, I would put the same jersey on and I would take over the body of Jalen Reagor and make sure he catches the damn ball if it means the Eagles win. Okay, does that answer your question?
But you're not. It's not quite.
Don't tell me it's not realistic. Okay,
it's not. No, it's not answering my question. If the Eagles give the ball to Jalen Reagor in a close game, are you screaming at your television saying, "Why are you giving him the ball?"
If he drops it, sure. Why
not?
No,
just in general. Why would you direct a play for your fifth? Why would you take a scheduled amount of plays for your fifth wide receiver and say we need to incorporate that in these plays in this ball game?
Because nobody's expecting
one
it.
Or two. You incorporate for your tight end, not for your fifth wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. You throw a curveball. Listen, Jacob DeGrom throws curveballs when nobody expects it, right? Like you got to throw a curveball in the midst of chaos to throw everybody off.
Yeah, I think his value is a returner, right? And unfortunately, hasn't even really been able to show that value, right? Like if anything, he's kind of like he probably should have just called it quits after that one return against was it Green Bay. Yeah, and after that he's fumbled a couple. He's made some poor decisions. Like it's just I get it. Man's in his own head. I just think Philly's a tough place to go through a tough time, man. Like it. You go to a team like Houston, or you go to a team like Atlanta, where they're rebuilding, they're looking for upside. You just got to make a couple plays there, and all of a sudden they're gonna like you. They're gonna want you there. And I think not only is it Philly, but it's a Philly team that's expecting to compete in a playoff spot. Again, if he's the fifth receiver on this roster, I'm not shocked, and I'm not unhappy with it. I think that he's gonna push guys. Like he's definitely gonna push Quez, right? Like if Quez is having a bad week. Rager's going to be there and he's going to be wanting snaps. Like if nothing else, the dude's hungry, man. You could see it even when he's, sending these probably misinformed tweets and all that stuff. Like you can tell he's hungry, right? He's a hungry dude. He's used to being that guy. So if he's the fifth receiver on this roster, but I do understand Nick's point where regardless of who your fifth receiver is on the roster, you're not necessarily drawing up plays. And I think that's what Reagor needs. He needs to get back into that rhythm. And we talked about this last year, Brian, like even when he was struggling, it's just like Sirianni's fighting to keep his job in his first year, right? He's fighting to prove that he has what it takes to lead this offense. You don't have time to put in 3 or 4 plays or spend time in a practice putting a package in for this guy. And it's just unfortunate because I do think that like the athletic upside is there and he's a talented receiver. It's just I don't know that I don't know that he's going to be able to do that in Philly. But again, I feel like we could debate this for
hours. We definitely could. We could definitely keep on going on. But unfortunately, we spent 37 minutes on what's tricky. Let's focus on what's going to happen because the Eagles are playing in Cleveland on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Second preseason game of the year. And if you've watched the first preseason game, then you definitely, are in agreement with us in the first part of the show where we feel like we saw a lot of good things out of the Eagles defense and offense. Second preseason game though, this is a big one for me because we probably won't see Jalen Hurts, but we will get to see the debut of Carson Strong, hopefully, because he didn't play a lick of snaps at all against the Jets. I want to see Carson Strong because I know there's a big competition between him and Sinnett right now. And whether Sinnett's in the lead or not, I really don't know because it's such a weird situation to be in. But what are you guys looking forward to this Sunday against the Browns? Or what do you want to see, actually?
I mean, one name that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the defense kind of early on is I was actually really impressed by Daveon Taylor, man. Had a good game. He's flying all over the field. And
the kid is fast.
Yeah.
Has a lot of speed.
Fast and again, you forget that this guy, barely played football for most of his life, right? Like, again, he's probably in his 5th or 6th year of playing football full time, and I can't really do that math in my head right now. But for those of you that don't know his story, he essentially didn't play football in high school because of his religious background, and then kind of got an exception to go play in college, and then he's here now. So again, like. I think it goes overlooked how many nuances there are to playing the linebacker position, especially in the NFL, man. That's one of the, I think they're just overlooked and underrated in modern NFL. But, back in the day, linebackers were one of the toughest positions to play. And nothing much has changed. It's just that the emphasis is now on the passing game. And so linebackers kind of get overlooked. But you get a guy like that, the upside is crazy, man. And there's a ton of guys on the roster that are exactly like that. Like Zach McPherson's, and I mean, we're going to talk about Josh Jobe, and there's a ton of these players on the defense that the upside is there. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing them getting more run time. On the offensive side of the football, again, we're probably not going to see many of the starters. But I think what I'm most looking forward to, and a guy we haven't mentioned, is just seeing more Cam Jurgens, man. Oh my goodness, what a debut! He's just a fun guy to watch, man. I was drooling out of the corner of my mouth just watching that guy. It's just again, it's just Jason Kelce again, right? It's just everything I liked about Jason Kelce. We have another one in house who's just as exciting, who's just as fun, who's got a personality. It's weird to say you can see a dude's personality when he plays, but you can tell what kind of guy Cam Jurgens is. He loves this sport. And so just man, when you get to watch that kind of stuff and it's a game and who cares if they win or lose, it's really about development. It's just going to be a fun game.
I will say, being at the game, watching the center pull, I stood there and I was looking, I'm like, did they play Jason today? I was Jason today? What do they do? Why would you play the 34-year-old? It didn't make sense. Absolutely agree. Jurgens was fantastic. Let's put it bluntly, none of the starters are playing on Sunday.
Not at all.
They've got joint practices. Historically and statistically, there's no reason for them to play the starters unless it goes poorly. If Jalen Hurts and the offense struggle in joint practices, I would argue they'll probably maybe see a series or two again. But going off of last year where they dominated joint practices, I don't think they're going to be playing a lot at all. If I were to look at a defensive player that I really am intrigued about, it's Taryn Jackson. The defensive end looked really good. And I mean really good on Friday. He's a guy, another one that if he develops, Derek Barnett could be on the chopping block. And if there's one player that I have just absolutely lost my shit over, it's Derek Barnett, because I have never seen a player just put up more negative plays than positive plays over his career when it comes to mental fortitude. So I'm ready to ship Derek Barnett to Siberia more than Jalen Reagor. Let's just put that out there. But Darren Jackson looked really good against the Jets. Granted, it was against the Jets backups, and Dwayne Brown had not signed to that point. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of, hey, let's see what this kid has. Let's see if we can put him in behind Graham, for 20, 25 plays. I'm very intrigued to what we saw on Friday. Offensively, I love Britton Covey. Training camp, everyone's been all over him. They basically talk about him like another Edelman. I want them to use him like an Edelman, where they're not slinging the ball 85 miles an hour at his head after every single pass in the flat. But he's the guy where I look at and say, I'm okay storing him on the roster on the 53, let him return. Don't put him in the passing game and just let him grow within the offense, because there's so much potential there that the Eagles, I don't think, want to let go, but they might have to if they're strung on with this Jalen Reagor nonsense.
Before you go, Brian, there's also a question that I want to pose to you guys, and that's about the tight end position, because I should probably know how, but Togai, he looks great.
That I was not going that route.
Sorry.
How did you figure I was not going to mention my guy Noah Togai?
All right, go ahead.
You just stole the light. You just take the light from me.
I apologize.
No, finish your statement. Finish your statement.
I'm just curious because Tyree Jackson just hasn't had the opportunity to show everything we've heard about him for the next little bit, and I just don't know how long you wait on that to show. And I think that again, I just it's just one of those last names I have trouble with. Togai. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in my mouth. I'm trying. It's just the muscles. I don't know. It's just my facial structure or something like that. Anyways, but but he's showing some stuff, man. He looked good. He looked athletic. He moves well. He's a big body. And then obviously you have Jack Stoll, who brings just kind of that other side of the tight end position. He's more of a blocking guy with passing upside, obviously, but a physical guy. And then obviously Dallas Goedert looks fucking fantastic. I'm so excited to watch.
You didn't mention Grant Calcaterra.
No,
Is he injured?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He is injured. Okay.
He'll probably start on the pup list because he hasn't really practiced.
He's not ready either. You watch his film in college; he's great upside, but I think he's more a big receiver at this point. I think he's kind of a liability as a blocking tight end. But I love his upside.
One thing I will say about Stoll, I spoke to either his family or a family friend after the wild card game, and they were very uptight about the fact that he didn't get a lot of passing opportunities. They feel that he's a very good pass catcher and he can run with the ball, but he's just such a good blocker that Philadelphia doesn't use him in that way. I think you're looking at another Brent Selleck in that limelight where Brent was a phenomenal blocker, but also was a very good pass catcher. I think he's one of the more underrated tight ends of the 2010s just because of how well balanced he was. He wasn't Jason Witten. He wasn't Zach Ertz, but he was as dependable as they came. Obviously, towards the end of his career, the hits started coming up and he wasn't as formidable as a pass catcher. But I think you're looking at Jack Stoll in the same light where this guy's going to get a lot more touches than I think people realize.
All right. You're ready for this. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to talk about nothing but tight ends, but now that you mention it, I don't think Tyree Jackson sees a lick of the field in the link at all. It's going to be Noah. It's going to be Jack. It's going to be Dallas. And to me, in my opinion, you want somebody that's the best ability to have in any sport is availability. And Tyree Jackson has not had that. Outside of that, I have a new draft crush. Not even a draft crush. I have a rookie crush. All right. Josh Joby is my guy right now because you have Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, Zach McPherson, who's number 5. Joby took reps with the first team today after James Bradbury went inside. And I feel like this kid, a lot of people spoke about his potential. And why not take a chance on a kid like this where he's coming from a great school? If I'm not saying he's coming from Alabama. Goodrich was at Clemson, right? Yeah. So he's coming from Alabama. You have a guy that's accustomed to winning, a guy that knows what it takes to win. You go with this guy. You take this chance. The Eagles very, very much need young cornerbacks that can actually develop at a faster rate than they have been developing within Philly. Darius Slay is not going to last forever. I'm highly convinced that James Bradbury gets the Alshon treatment where if he has a good season, he's going to get extended. If he doesn't, he's going to get he's going to get dropped at the end of the season.
I think he walks either way, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I have a weird feeling that Philly locks him in.
Corners over $15 million. They're not.
I completely agree with that. But they have an out with Darius Slay after the season, which is beneficial for them because Darius Slay would be age 33.
It would hurt. It would hurt to watch Slay leave, but I do.
It
think
would.
It's possible.
But it's ideal because James Bradbury is not 30 years old yet. You have that perfect transition period where even if you keep Slay, you pay Bradbury. But listen, if you
he's your
keep
number
Slay
2
and you pay Bradbury, you draft a guy, or hey, if Zach is ready, or if Josh Joby is developed enough where he could take that number 2 role, you need pieces in place because these guys are not going to last forever, and we know the Eagles are not in a position to depend on older players at that kind of position. They never were. So if you're able to win that, they're gonna have enough money to do all this stuff. I truly believe they'll extend Bradbury, but I'm very convinced that Josh Joby is going to make this roster one. And Josh Joby is going to have the impact that we wish that the Kerry Vincent's had, that the Michael Chiquette's had, that all these young guys that came on, Tay Godwin as well. But impact that we wish that they had is going to be from Josh Joby. And I'm looking forward to it big time this season.
I think kind of piggybacking off of that, one of the names that I've been saying a lot of since we acquired him that might be a name to watch is Josiah Scott.
That's also true. They were big on him last year.
Yeah. And man, like, again, kind of, like, I think if I'm not being mistaken, it was kind of more of a slot corner guy, and then they kind of moved into safety, and he's been kind of thriving. But like, this defense needs a guy that can do both, right? Unfortunately, I would love to see Kayvon Wallace develop, but I just don't know if you put him down in the slot and ask him to man cover, he's not that guy. You don't want to do that with oh geez. Well, I mean, you don't really want to do it with any of the safeties on the roster, but you don't want to do. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now.
With Scott or Wallace, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wallace might not even make the 53. To be quite honest,
Might not.
I think he's one of those prime candidates. He's not getting cut this time. Might get cut in next week because he hasn't really shown anything on the field. And it's just the thing that I always look at with draft picks is, do you show production? Josh Sweat is a prime example where he wasn't breaking out necessarily with his first 2 years, but you saw those glimpses of, man, if this kid could just play a little bit more, maybe we could get some untapped potential. Marcus Epps is another prime example where if they just played a little bit more, maybe we can get an all-pro out of this. Kayvon hasn't shown anything.
He really hasn't. It's the wildest thing because he came out with big expectations coming out of Clemson, coming out of the Brian Dawkins, Dawkins house of safeties. Like it's such a weird thing.
Pick.
Yeah,
I think it was wrong to give this whole he is the next Dawkins and he's the next great safety the Eagles ever had. The expectations that were brought on, I think, were a little too unfair and a little too much for a guy that was a mid-round pick like that. But again, you're looking for those extra pieces. And we talk about Job or Joby, however you want to pronounce it. He looks, and again, I know I'm comparing guys and all that other stuff. He looks like Jalen Mills. He's not the fastest. He's not the quickest, doesn't have the best ball skills.
Long and tough.
It's just he's going to battle the entire time. He might get beat 5 times a game, but in the red zone, there is no one else you want. Because Jalen Mills showed that throughout his entire career in Philly. He showed that in New England this year as well. He was a great red zone corner, great within the 20-yard line. That could absolutely continue with Job, where if he develops a little bit, he's already – and again, it sucks to say this – he's already showing more upside than anything Kayvon Wallace has shown over the last 3 years.
I mean, I would love to actually know this, but I don't know if there's a corner. I mean, despite all of his shortcomings, that shut down Julio Jones in the red zone the way that Jalen Mills did.
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's just those kind of – you need those kind of guys with the chip on the shoulders that have a short-term memory. Like, Jalen Mills is the only guy I've ever seen that can get absolutely burnt and then still finger wave the next play. And you need that kind of corner on your roster. Like, I think that, James Bradbury, he's new. He might, come out of his shell a bit in Philly. But, like, from what I understand, what I've seen, kind of more of a soft-spoken guy. Like, he goes about his business. He does his job. Slay is Slay, man. Like, he's just one of a kind personality. And those kind of guys, if you get that guy that comes in with a chip on his shoulder, like, they're just gonna flourish under those two vets, right? That's like, it's the yin and the yang, right? And it's just perfect. So that short-term memory is gonna be key. And then like, regarding the safety position, especially Kayvon Wallace, man, like, that's a guy where you would love to just give him special teams reps after special teams reps and have him come down and smack someone every single play and just let that be his niche. And then if he can develop safety, develop at the safety.
He'll be like that guy that we got from San Diego at that time during the Super Bowl run. Maragos, yes, Chris Maragos. Yeah. I mean, a great special teams guy, nothing more than that. When you bring him onto the defense, you bring him on and he does his thing, and that's it.
Right, and I teams though for 2 years now.
Exactly. I just don't know if Philly has the space to allow Kayvon. Like, that's a perfect situation for him, man. Like, he is a guy that you put on special teams and makes game-changing plays. I think that is one of it's perennially forgotten about how important special teams is, and that's one of the things we didn't touch on. Special teams did not look good against the Jets. So it's one of those things that, you need to focus on. And if you have the roster space, Kayvon Wallace is absolutely that kind of guy. That's why you keep a Sean Bradley. Like, Sean Bradley locked in his roster spot. I can't see him not making
he's not
team.
going nowhere.
Right. And again, a fantastic friend of the show, unfortunately, has been kind of biding his time for that shot as a linebacker, but he did the right thing. Listen, I'm going to do everything you asked me as a linebacker position. I'm going to continue to develop. And in the meantime, I'm going to be the best goddamn special teams player you've ever seen. Right. And I think that's what Kayvon Wallace needs to do. The question is whether or not they have the space to let him do that. And I just don't know.
I completely agree, and it's going to be interesting to see how these players really pan out at the end of the preseason, heading into the season. But other than that, I mean, we're almost at the hour mark. We gave you guys a little bit more than we used to this little off season that we've been having. But first and foremost, we do appreciate everybody that's tuned in, that everybody that's kind of stuck by us. We will be having several little wrinkles to the show going towards the season, but that's for a later announcement. As for now, though, huge thank you for Nick for joining us, taking the time out to spend our chaotic moments with us and embrace the flipping the birds nonsense at times. So we do appreciate you coming on, and we do appreciate all the hard work that you've been doing at BSN as well.
Appreciate it, guys.
But yeah, other than that, we're back next week. Don't know if we have anything up our sleeves next week. We could, possibly.
Could.
Or we might not. Hell, we might even have a special announcement.
You have to tune in to see. You have to tune in to see, right?
We might even have a new sponsorship coming in and something special really brewing on the back end.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, something a little nice. But yeah, other than that, I got distracted by Jay Fizz's comment. Randomly, how did the link work? Oh, Jay Fizz, yes. The link worked perfectly fine. I didn't have any issues with it. So I, good looking out with that. I appreciate that. And Nick, Jay Fizz actually says good seeing you as well. So again, we appreciate having you on. I'm pretty sure we'll have you on again this season. Absolutely. But other than that, it's Flipping the Birds Tuesday. Make sure you guys tune in next week and the week after, all the way until freaking February hits. And yeah, I'm Brian Cameron. He's Morgan Burkett. We're Flipping the Birds.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.